Essentially, my talk is about building things in fast-paced environments, and I think I picked this topic a little bit, because of the current situation that we're living. It's changed everyone's life, and it's really tested the resilience and the strength of so many of our teams and like so many around us, and even probably in our private lives as well. So it's also something I learned in the last few months. I was actually working for a fintech company, building their sales teams. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself in a minute. And I could see a lot of these related. So it inspired me to create this talk for Women Network. And thank you so much for having me and for inviting me to your network to participate. The event is looking amazing. There are lots of interesting, really honored. I just want to start with a quote of like Brainy Brown. I'm sure lots of you already know who Brainy Brown is. The quote is, "When people don't know their value, they're hustling for their worth." And I think lots of you obviously already know what this means. How important it is to let team knows and people in your team and people around you what's the value they bring and what's their role and why they are important. Otherwise, that's basically leaving them in a state of like, I really need to show off and show my value. And that's not maybe the culture we want to drive in companies these days. So I really like this quote. A little bit about me. I'm from Spain. I work as a senior talent partner for a company called Talentful, and I also volunteer for Ready School of Innovation as a mentor and coach. What Ready does is they offer refugee support. So they basically, a lot of people are in Germany under a refugee visa. What Ready does is them and they train them in technical subjects, so code. So there are lots of coding classes, and prepare them for the job market. What I do there is I coach their students and I run workshops to prepare them how to prepare their CVs, how to prepare for interviews, how to build their confidence a little bit around the job market and the idea of going for a job, because lots of them are career changers or have gone through experiences that left them slightly isolated from the job market. And I currently live in Berlin, just moved here last year. My company actually moved me since we expanded a little bit. So yeah, that's literally what I do as a senior talent partner. The company I work for is Talentful. What we do is we are an in-house talent consultancy. We work on site with some of the world's best brands, and we recruit mainly across technology, marketing, and sales. Also, I've been doing a bit of sales for different industries, basically. So that's what we do. I want to talk about resilience. I pick this definition of resilience. There are loads, as you can imagine, but I like this one quite a lot. Resilience is that ineffable quality that allows some people to be knocked down by life and come back stronger than ever. Rather than letting failure overcome them and drain their resolve, they find a way to rise from the ashes. So I think it's a bit more poetic than others and not so businessy. So I quite like this one. Yeah. Because lots of times we tend to talk more about the strength or effectiveness and we forget a little bit about what resilience actually is and what it means for our teams and in the workplace. And the reason I'm talking about it, just going back into it, it's because for the last few months, I joined a fintech company on a project, and they were really scaling really fast. And I was responsible for growing and hiring a big part of their sales teams and leadership sales people. And obviously, we always have this idea of salespeople being very, resilient and effective and always uplifted. But when COVID happened, and that's I started the project, everything was put into questions. So me as a recruiter being there, I different sides of what a good sales candidate is and what a good sales team is. And having these conversations with the managers, they were really honest about the fact that the teams were really struggling. The mood was really down. They're just people were like working remotely and selling remotely, and they felt like really disconnected and isolated, which put in test their resilience. And of course, the sales team was doing very well until then. But like you must know, a lot of companies are currently struggling, and of course, there are things that are out of your control, but it also, I think it changed a little bit the culture of hiring for us and the way we hired and built the teams. And we put resilience at the core of it. And we made it like testing people on resilience, like building teams in a way that they are resilient, became really relevant and important. So a bit from my research on this talk is for you, maybe it helps you, but the 4 traits of resilient teams, I'm sure there are loads of others, but this is what I found so far. So resilient teams believe that they can effectively complete tasks together. So I'm sure that as individuals, we're very confident on our ability to complete tasks on our own, and on how effective we can actually work on our own. But when you're a part of the team, that's essentially game changing, because it means that you need to have that empathy to resonate with other people and coordinate with them. A very resilient team knows that they can accomplish things, of course, individually, every member, but they know that when they are together, things are going to get done to a probably even higher standard. And that's one of the aspects that of team. So dynamic. So like, for example, some of you work in Scrum or Agile, or some of others work in Waterfall, so these all things have to be coordinated. But in here, and that obviously is connected to the way you work, but also in here, it's also about ethics. They know what's expected from them at every stage, and what they bring, and what do they contribute to the team, and that they owe to the rest of the team, their performance also at the end of the day. They're able to improvise. So, in here, there was a case about pilots, and plane accidents, I think, and how they reacted under pressure, basically. So resilient sales teams are able to improvise. So I think COVID, again, is a very good example of companies that, even though, things were really tough and things were completely out of our control and they didn't go as planned, they actually, reorganize themselves, and they knew, that they could just be creative, and bring their best, even if things were not as planned, and like all the forecastings were probably messed up. Things were not going to be like they thought they would be for the next 6 months, but like they basically could get together and say, okay, what's the best case scenario, out of this situation that we can realistically achieve, and they would just like create a new plan, and everything literally changed, and it didn't look as it was supposed to be, but at least, they were able to take some action. They trust one another and still feel safe. So psychological safety is very important for resilient teams. This is basically connected to something I will talk a little bit later regarding to the ability of making mistakes, and also I'm thinking outside the box. So if you don't trust your team, if you don't trust the people around you, sometimes you might not be able to speak up in meetings. You might not be able to come up with crazy ideas, or even, take risks and be able to make mistakes, because obviously you might be afraid that other people won't take it seriously. They might make fun of you. They might think your ideas or your comments are completely stupid, or they might just dismiss them. But this is not the case in resilient teams. Again, lots of these things are responsibility of like managers and also the culture of the company. I understand that, but obviously I know there are lots of leaders in this event, so perhaps something to think about in terms of what culture you want to drive. But I've been also, I just didn't say anything in a meeting, even though I had an opinion, because I was worried someone would make fun of me, and that all comes down to that psychological safety and like the ability to trust your team, and and of course yourself, but just trust the people around you that they won't judge you even your idea is silly or crazy. So essentially these are some of the traits of resilient teams. Because obviously I've been very involved in and partnering, working with lots of stakeholders, building different kind of teams, sometimes technical, sometimes more sales or marketing, but experience on what I think is important to build this. One is partner. So at Talentful, we have one of our values is partner. We partner with all the business. We don't only partner with the recruiters, and we don't only partner with one hiring manager, we partner with way more people. I never really heard of a great team that was built based on one soul's opinion. So you probably, if you're looking to build a very strong team, very resilient, you will need to consult other people. Or if you don't have a business yet, other people around you, so you'll have to probably not do this on your own, and you will need to align with other people that might be able to contribute and give you also feedback and help. So yeah, so partner will be one. Then is diversity. So allow different ideas, and that's obviously applies to people from different backgrounds, cultures, even people that speaks different languages. I think it's very important for teams. So like you all know, diversity comes in many forms. Allowing diversity as part of the team will make it obviously more resilient. So keeping that in check is one of the things that can contribute to that resilience, because obviously that will challenge different ideas, different points of views, which again, it keeps that skill balance and like point of view balance, which is very important for collaboration and for keeping that strength, essentially, as we go. And I think this is probably, in my opinion, one of the most important of the five. And I know diversity has been maybe even like too much of a buzzword, but I really believe in this, and I know that diverse teams are the strongest. Fair and transparent processes. So I know that when lots of companies are in a rush hiring, they will kind of, make this slightly less fair and transparent, in the sense that they do resource on like there's referral systems, or just like bringing their friends on board, or just like rushing, the hiring processes, which then when you have the team together at the end of the day, probably other people in the team, or like it makes you even question how these people got here. Did we all get the same opportunities, the same chances? Are we all on the same page? And I think I can sympathize a lot with like early founders, and people building their early teams, rushing on the processes, and probably not even having a process sometimes, to be honest. I've also worked at startups and I've seen this, but you might be aware that in the long term, this might make your team weak. And you might need to go back, and take a few steps back and start building it from scratch again, which would be obviously a shame, and I suppose a waste of time for everyone. So agreeing on what's a fair and transparent process, and this also applies obviously once the team is already created, what's fair. Just everyone should be clear how everyone got there, what do they bring, what skills are they bringing to the team, and just make sure we're on the same page. And this is not easy at all, to be honest. This takes a lot of alignment, lots of conversations, and probably a lot of goal alignment in terms of what you want to achieve in the end. But it's very worth clarifying this since day one, so we don't run back in circles, because this was something that did happen. We did have to pre-screen multiple candidates, and at the end of the day, we just realized actually, the hiring manager had, but then the team is not really aligned, or they're really not on board with bringing these new people over to the team, and maybe it's because they didn't understand what these people are going to are going to do, or they were just on a rush and these conversations never happened. But just make sure you open those conversations really, really early. Okay. And then have a mistake-friendly approach. So this comes back a little bit to the topic of psychological safety. Making mistakes, allows, how to be creative and just how to come up with like different solutions. And this has helped a lot in the time of COVID. For example, we had to change the whole sales strategy, like focus more on other areas, like re-engineer the teams, and like at some point, like obviously do have hard conversations at the end of the day. But we knew that was going to put us in position in the long term to be really strong and resilient, and we knew that would help for us to come out of this stronger. So how to weather the storm, basically. So that you need to be clear that it's okay to make mistakes, and to essentially think out of the box and to take risks. And open feedback. So again, really, really important. I think, if someone messes up, if someone needs some type of conversation, I think feedback should be really, really open. And of course, it's very trendy in some companies, or like for some managers to sugarcoat things, but I work with people from lots of different cultures, and sometimes it might come across as harsh or whatever, but it's best to be honest and to keep feedback open, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help the team and make it stronger. And to be honest, in my opinion, these are only some of the things that make teams really resilient. Probably not all of them, for sure. I'm sure there are lots of others, and you probably have lots of other ideas that would go on this list. But from what I've learned from building sales team for the last 3-4 months, it's worked for us, and obviously I just want to share with you. And I think, it's a shame that there's a lot of research done on how teams can be effective, or how can team thrive, when things are like going great and all that. But there's really a lack of research and a lack of talk, I think, on what allows teams to bounce back. And I thought that was the perfect timing to talk about it because of the current situation.